Hey everyone, welcome to EDU 5202, Teaching Strategies for Health Professions Education. I hope you're all really excited to delve into this course. This is my second time teaching this course, and I've also taken this course myself in the past as a learner myself. And I have to say it was my favorite course as a student, and it's my favorite course to teach now as a professor. So we're going to be far more hands-on in this class, or at least as best as we can be in an asynchronous online course. Because we're going to have a lot of fun exploring and trying out different teaching strategies ourselves within our course. In this video, I want to walk us through our course syllabus, and now this isn't meant to be a replacement for actually reading the syllabus, so please do so during our first week of class. But in this little video, I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what's in our syllabus and bring your attention to a few important points in it. And I've divided up my syllabus overview video into two parts. So here in part one, I'm going to talk about pretty much everything except for the assignments, and I'm going to save that all for part two. So if you open up the syllabus, the first thing you'll see there is the course information and my contact information. Please do just call me Rachel. I am currently a part-time assistant prof here at U Ottawa, and I am also a PhD candidate in the faculty. Prior to this, I worked in health professions education research here at the Faculty of Medicine. Previous to that, I was in a similar capacity at the University of Toronto, and prior to that, I was a nurse. Email is generally the best way to get a hold of me. I do also have Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams if you ever want to do a little video conferencing chat. And please do reach out to me if you want to chat, whether it be about the class, about assignments, or if you just have some idea for assignments that you want to bounce off of me. Our course is asynchronous, which means we don't have scheduled days and times for our classes. So anything I do like a video is going to be pre-recorded and posted online for you to view at your own convenience. However, you will have some opportunities to work synchronously in groups if that is what your group chooses to do, but that is optional. So if we take a look at our course calendar description, the purpose of this course is to explore the concepts, strategies, and methods of instruction in health professions education, as well as examining how instruction supports student learning. But how are we actually going to do this? Well, we're going to do this by exploring different teaching strategies. So I've listed a few examples of teaching strategies that we may delve into here on the screen. And the specific strategies that we explore really depends on your interests as a class, since you are going to be doing some team teaching this semester, but more on that when we get into the assignments portion of this. So with each strategy that we explore, we're going to be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each strategy, as well as concepts of teaching and learning that underlie these teaching strategies. And then we're going to try out the different strategies in fun and creative ways within our class. When I was doing my coursework, my courses were all in person, except for I think one. And after one of my in-person classes, there was always a Bachelor of Education class where the professor was always coming in with these boxes of fun stuff like musical instruments, art supplies. And our class was always just like, oh, like what class is that? Can we take this class? And I like to think that EDU 5202 is kind of the graduate course equivalent of that within our program. When I took this course in person, we had people bringing in crates of oranges for teaching, fake bones and power tools that we got to play with, but more on that when we get to assignments. So for our course, we have 6 learning objectives. First being to reflect on your professional practice, values, and experiences in relation to current thinking about different teaching strategies within the domain of your concentration. For most of you, that will be health professions education. Analyze the appropriateness of different teaching strategies within the context of your professional practice and/or concentration. In collaborative teams, you'll be interpreting, critically analyzing, and thoughtfully discussing scholarly literature and professional experiences, focusing in on those teaching strategies within the context of your concentration. Demonstrate the integration of digital technologies into the delivery of a learning experience. Create learning experiences drawing upon instructional design principles and scholarly literature on teaching strategies. And you're going to create a product that critically explores the use of a teaching strategy within the context of your professional practice and/or concentration. And this course is informed by my own educational philosophy, which is heavily influenced by complexity science and adult learning principles. And I'm going to give some examples of how I use these learning theories in my own teaching in Module 2 when we talk about learning theories. But in short, I believe that you are all bringing a wealth of expertise into this course, which we're going to be drawing upon for our own learning. I also believe that we can learn a lot from hearing about each other's experiences, our ideas, and our perspectives. And I believe in talking to one another about the readings, our experiences, and the teaching strategies we cover this semester is a really important part of our learning. And so I believe that the real learning is going to be occurring in the conversations we're having with one another online, as well as some subsequent reflections you're going to be doing individually on the modules. So from this point onwards, I'm mostly going to be talking about university policies and services that are available here for you. So if you have recently taken a course with me, feel free to skip ahead to where we talk about the course schedule for this semester. So student support services. So at the beginning of our syllabus, I list some student support services that are here to help you at the university. Please take some time to review these. And there are a few that I want to draw your attention to, specifically the librarian, Indigenous Resource Center, and health and wellness. So librarians are really the unsung and completely underutilized heroes at our university. A lot of students don't realize that the librarians are there to help you. And the Faculty of Education even has its own librarian, and you can check out page 4 of our syllabus for more details on our librarian. Indigenous Resource Center. So the Indigenous Resource Center is fantastic. They work with the university and services to develop initiatives that support our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students. And they have a variety of different resources and services for these students. I've found as a non-Indigenous person, they have also been really great about when I myself want to learn more about Indigenous issues or my learners want to learn more. In my experience as a learner and a teacher, the Indigenous Resource Center really likes seeing us bringing in Indigenous issues and educational perspectives into the more mainstream core curriculum. I've consulted with them on my projects before. They even came to one of my classes where I was part of a group presentation presenting on Indigenous feminism in education, which was really, really neat. I've also had some of my students go to them for projects that they were doing on the history of the residential schools, and they were very welcoming and lent them some resources and books, so do check them out. I have their website listed in our syllabus. So health and wellness. Health and wellness is important, and if you're not feeling well, it can be really, really hard to focus on your studies. At U Ottawa, you have access to free counseling through the university. Our counseling center has both in-person counseling, and it also offers virtual counseling. The counseling here is, of course, confidential. If you do decide to go to them, it doesn't get back to your professors or your TAs. I have personally confirmed that with them. It's kept on a separate system from what we're on as professors. Their website also lists a number of really helpful wellness resources, which I recommend checking out, and I have more information about this on page 5 of our syllabus. Following this, I share some important policies. Much like student services, I'm not going to read them all out here, so I do ask that you take a few moments to review them, but there are a few I want to highlight. So the first is attendance. So attendance is compulsory in our faculty, but what does that mean for an online class? Well, instead of having traditional class, we're going to be doing online activities in our learning lab teams, and your participation here is captured in your reflective learning tool and in the peer and self-evaluation at the end of our course, which we'll talk about in the next video. I can also see your login frequency and whether you've opened discussion posts or looked at certain things. So if you're not participating, I have my ways of knowing, although I only look into this if there's a student that I'm concerned about. Now, I too have taken online courses as a learner, and my biggest piece of advice for doing online courses like this is do not leave your online course to the last day of a module and then just try to blast through everything in one night. So you're not going to learn much this way, and neither will your teammates in your discussion groups, because this interaction with your peers is so key to this course and your learning. And I am a big believer of learning theories that acknowledge the importance of social factors in learning. Plus, this is also just a very stressful approach to doing your online coursework. So my recommendation, just an idea, you don't have to do this, is to check in daily, maybe 15 minutes just at night after you put the kids down to bed. This could be popping in for a few minutes to work on some ideas you want to submit for your reflective learning tool. It could be checking in on what your group is discussing. That being said, I know that daily check-in does not work for everyone, especially with clinical shifts and being on call, family responsibilities. So this is merely a suggestion. Please don't expect your team members this semester to be adding to your group's conversation daily unless that is something you have negotiated and have all agreed upon. In the past, a lot of my learners have preferred to take their conversations off of Brightspace onto a different platform, WhatsApp being very, very popular amongst my learners, because it makes it a lot easier for them to check in with one another, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. The next policy I want to draw your attention to is the late assignment policy. Those of you who have been in my classes before will know that I don't like deducting marks for late assignments because I think that your assessment, feedback, and grades should reflect your learning. And I don't think docking marks for something being late is reflective of what you've learned. I also know that you are all adults, you are all busy, and sometimes just life happens, especially with a pandemic. So please do email me if you need an extension on anything, even if it's the night before it is due. That being said, I do need to have your assignments all submitted before I'm required to submit my marks to the faculty. There are ways around this, though, if there are exceptional circumstances, such as illness. But at that point, we do need to talk to the powers that be in the Faculty of Education. While you do need my approval for that, it's not ultimately me that makes the call. But just so you know, this is possible if something comes up. So in short, if you need more time on assignments, all you need to do is reach out to me. Next up in our syllabus is accommodation of people with exceptionalities. Please let me know if you need any sort of accommodation, regardless of whether or not you are registered with SAS. In the past, a lot of my learners have not been registered with SAS, but still needed an accommodation, such as for things like mental illness, like depression and anxiety. I am more than happy to accommodate you as long as it's an accommodation that I have the capability to provide. For example, I do need SAS's help for certain things, such as if something needs to be made available in Braille, but I don't need their help for things like closed captioning videos and giving you extra time on assignments. And exceptionalities doesn't include just things like learning disabilities, even though that tends to be more so what we initially think when we hear the term. For example, it also includes medical conditions like fibromyalgia and mental health, as I mentioned earlier, like anxiety, depression. It could also include an injury. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to support your learning this semester, and I don't require doctor's notes or anything like that. If you say you have some sort of an exceptionality and you need an accommodation, I'm happy to work with you. Next up is academic integrity and fraud, or plagiarism. And this one can be basically summarized as just please don't plagiarize. If you are unfamiliar with citing things properly in APA, just reach out to me and I can send you some resources to learn more on APA. I do already have a video available on my YouTube talking about some of the common APA mistakes I often see. I can also talk more about this with the class if that is of interest. In the past, I have had students plagiarize mainly because of the pressure to get an assignment done on time. Please don't compromise the academic integrity of your work just for the sake of a deadline. Just ask me for an extension, even if it's due that night. Not a big deal. The next part is assignments. We're going to skip this for now, so please join me back here in part 2 so we can discuss this in depth. And if you go to page, I think it's 17, but I say 14 here. Flip to our syllabus near the end and you can find the course schedule, which includes the topics we're covering in our assigned readings. So you can see here up on the screen, I have our course schedule up. We have 12 modules. So for our first 4 modules, I'm going to be facilitating them. So the first week is going to be our introduction, where we're going to be getting to know each other, familiarizing ourselves with the assignments, asking questions, things like that. In Module 2, we're going to talk a little bit about learning theories. I know with this course, we have people coming in at all different stages in this program. Some people, this will be their first semester, and some people, this will be their last semester. So I'm hoping by talking about learning theories, this can help us build a really strong theoretical foundation at the beginning of our course that we can rely on as we delve into the different teaching strategies as the course progresses. In Module 3, I'm going to be facilitating an example of our teaching strategies team teaching assignment. And for my exemplar, we're going to be looking at e-learning. And in Module 4, we're going to talk about planning for teaching. So we're going to be talking about all these different things that really surround our teaching strategies. So we're going to talk about writing learning objectives. We're going to talk about constructive alignment between our objectives, our teaching strategies, and our assessment strategies. We're going to talk a little bit about the physical space that we're actually teaching in and getting everything set up. So this is a very practical week in that regards. And for this week, you are going to be working with your teaching team rather than your learning lab team. And the idea here is that it's a week where you can really work with your teaching team to get your assignment together for when you are doing the peer teaching. And speaking of which, we have 5 modules where in teams you get to teach a module on the teaching strategy. I'm hoping we can include 10 teaching strategies this semester, but our class is a little bit smaller, so we'll see what we can do. So some weeks we may have 2 teams presenting, and there may be some weeks where we just have 1. The dates I have picked here for the weeks you can present are all tentative. I did it this way to kind of spread them out across the course, but we can change this all around depending on your preferences for when you would like to teach in the semester. What's happened in the past when I've taught this is everyone just wants to get this over with really early in the semester. So what's happened in the past is I teach the first 4 modules, and then it's a whole bunch of student presentations, and then I teach the final 3. So everything really after module 4 is up for grabs in terms of your teaching. And so this leaves us with the final 3 additional models that I will be facilitating. Right now I have scheduled considerations for interprofessional education for module 7. So we're going to talk about teaching interprofessional and interdisciplinary groups and look at some examples of different teaching strategies that you may choose from for more interprofessional teaching. You will have some choice in your readings for this module. One of the options will be looking at interprofessional simulations for disaster response, which will include a reading and a video of a real interprofessional disaster response simulation, which is pretty cool. In Module 10, we're going to explore a real-world application of what we've been discussing this semester, specifically looking at electronic consultations or e-consults and their intersections with teaching strategy and learning theories. And then in Module 12, we're going to end things off by talking about feedback and debriefing, since that's an important part of many of the teaching strategies we discussed this semester, such as simulation. And as you peruse through the syllabus, you'll notice that some weeks we have what I call foundational readings and focused readings. So the foundational readings are readings that everyone is asked to read, and then you get to pick one from the focused readings. And I try to capture a variety of different teaching contexts when I pick these focused readings. As I get to know you more as a class this semester, I may also add in a few other optional focused readings that you can choose from. And you'll notice that in our syllabus, some of our readings are TBD or to be determined, and these are the readings that our teaching teams are going to be picking for us on those modules. When you get in your teams, if you have some questions and you're not really sure what to pick from, I do have some potential readings that you may find interesting stashed away. So if you're having a hard time finding something, just reach out to me and I can help you. And if you have any suggestions for readings from previous studies or from your own experiences that you think would really be of interest to others in the class, feel free to make suggestions. And in the course syllabus, we also have a bibliography on page 23. This lists some peer-reviewed journals and books that may be of use to you. I can also make recommendations based on your personal interests. And then the following page has a list of potentially helpful tools that you may find helpful for these courses, like Powtoons, sites you can use to create free websites, infographics, mind maps, things like that. This could be really helpful for you for your final product, for your team teaching, and also for your reusable digital learning object, all assignments that we'll talk about in part 2. And I recommend holding on to this list because it will definitely be helpful for you in your other courses. And that is it for part 1 of our syllabus overview. As I mentioned earlier, in part 2, we are going to talk about the assignments and assessment. So get up, stretch, refill your beverage, and I will see you all back here for part 2.